This episode of the Instant Speed Podcast is also brought to you by TCG Player. Yeah, Uprising is the newest draftable set of Flesh and Blood, available for sale in the US on July 1st. Everywhere else, June 24th, but be wary of that delay. Filled with fiery ninja attacks, summoning those phoenix flames, invoking fierce dragons, or flinging chilling arcane damage towards unsuspecting opponents, this latest set is high-powered addition to the world of Wraith. Now, kickstart your journey with the legendary Dragon Collection, exclusively available at TCG Player. In it, you get 2 boxes of Uprising, all of the 3 unique Dragon Shield themed Dragon Shields, and an exclusive full art promo card with the sleek collector box. These bundles will sell out fast and are only available at TCG Player. Don't get mired in frostbite. Use the link in the description and pick up your boxes before the draconic fire burns up your opportunity to own this exclusive collection. Use those links in the description to support the podcast. Go ahead and score that exclusive bundle before they turn to ash.
Well, I work hard. How come everybody wants to shuffle my cards? And I think that it's true.
This is the Instant Speed Podcast, episode number 38. It is brought to you by FABDB.net, your premier source for deck building tools, collection management, and simulated booster drafting. So go ahead and upgrade your account at FABDB.net. Get access to all the best features. Bring your game to the next level. Our guests for this episode are Logan Peterson, Dagan White, and Jordan Kennedy, a trio that participated in the Realm Gaming Team Uprising event in Ohio this past weekend and finished second to a team that was anchored by players like Michael Feng, Yan Jiang, and none other than Brendan Patrick. So we've got a wonderful trio of guests, but before we get to the guests, let's talk about the facts, ladies and gentlemen. Well, new marvels of existing heroes in alternate language history packs have been revealed. Dorinthia, Bravo Showstopper, Kano, and Dash are all getting a rework, a Marvel version. Yet you might know this, such as the old school Bravo Star of the Show treatment. Cold foil, full art, they look amazing. Only available as chase cards in the foreign language, I say foreign language, but the alternate language history packs that will be available across, I suppose, Europe and all over the world, wherever you can get your hands on one. Now, we mentioned the Realm Gaming Ohio tournament. That, of course, was won by Brendan Patrick's team. Well, is it Brendan Patrick's team? Is it Michael Feng's team? Is it Yan Jiang's team? Either way, all 3 of them were amazing. The event was exquisite. You guys can check out the realmgamingnetwork.com to go see all the great things that are going on out there in Ohio. Support them. They are good people. Next off is Instant Speed is very, very happy, very honored to be partnering up with Arsenal Pass to promote wellness in the month of July, whether it be fitness, physical wellness, mental health, wellness, improvement, however you want to approach it. We are here to support you. So you can check out our Discord at Instant Speed. We've got a wellness challenge thing going on. I'm looking to get into a little bit better shape, keep the brain on focus, keep the body strong, and your goals are now my goals. So join up and we will get this going. And another big, big thank you to all of our Tier 3 Patreon members. You guys are awesome. Every single time, every week that new patrons come on and jump on board, it really makes our day, keeps the lights on here at Instant Speed Podcast. So thank you immensely for your ongoing support. Our guests again are Logan Peterson, Dagan White, and Jordan Kennedy. This is Instant Speed, episode number 38. The Instant Speed Podcast is always brought to you by FABDB.net. It is your premier source for deck building tools, collection management, and simulated booster drafting. It is the place to go to build your deck, theorize, and just improve your gameplay. Go to FABDB.net. Upgrade your account to premium and get access to all of these high-quality tools to bring your game to the next level. FABDB.net. The Instant Speed Podcast is joyed to welcome the runners-up from the Realm Gaming Team Uprising sealed event in Ohio that just went down last weekend. Logan Peterson and Jordan Kennedy are also the hosts alongside Abby of Flesh and Pod, another amazing podcast, which I do recommend you guys check out. Dagan White, however, probably the most decorated out of all of you. Is basically not only is he showing up with one hell of a filter and a haircut, my man. I don't know how else to explain it, but we were discussing this earlier. There has to be some sort of polish going on. Like,
there's a filter. There has to be a filter.
But you're also top 4. You finished top 4 at the U.S. Nationals, which is enormous. So congratulations to you for that. But gentlemen, welcome to Instant Speed. And I know I have been on Flush and Pod. Logan, you've been on this program, but together, you all as a unit, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Thanks.
No worries. All right. So we do this the same way as we typically do whenever there are new guests. Now, Logan, you can kind of forego this. You sort of kicked the can down the road on this one already. But origin stories, friends. We'll start with you, Dagan. And I mean, just Flesh and Blood and where you are, or what led you to where you are today amidst Flesh and Blood. Everyone has sort of their roots and where they were planted when it comes to card games and such. But give us a little bit about that.
I mean, I have one of those personalities where, like, if I'm interested in something at all, I just kind of go all in on it, you know? So, like, a friend of ours, local, invited me to a Learn to Play night. I played board games with him, like, once or twice before that. And then I went to the Learn to Play night, learned how to play Levia with one of the Blitz decks, and I was just hooked since. And I heard there was tournaments and everything, so I just kind of went all in at that point. That's all it took.
A lot of people just mentioned it's like, they get hooked into something. Like there's no half speed, there's no second gear. It's just 0 to 60 immediately. For yourself, Jordan, how is your origin story unraveling when it comes to Flesh and Blood?
Yeah, so like I have a long history of TCGs. Like I think like most people that are in this space, a couple of friends, again locals to me in Columbus, said, "Hey, you should come play this one." And I really didn't want to because like card games like die all the time, and they were like, "No, this one's pretty legit." So I went and without even like trying it, I bought 2 boxes of Monarch, and then played my first game and was like, "Man, this better not suck, or else I'm out like $200." But then I loved it. I found out that Logan played, and we had played cards together for 10 years, and it was a pretty quick, like Dagan said, it was a pretty quick hyperfixation for me.
And then you're all in, and then Logan yourself. I mean, you spoke about this on previous episodes and such, but when it comes to bringing for instance Jordan into it, was like, what was your influence on that? Like, were you in the game prior to Jordan trying it? Like, you had already played it, and how did you continue to rope him in? Like, what breadcrumbs did you kind of leave him?
I don't know if you knew this, but Jordan actually invented the game alongside James White in 745 AD. So he was way before me, but that's a running joke on the podcast. But it was weird. We had no influence on each other learning this game.
Not at all.
We've known each other for a little over a decade. Played games together. Met through Magic, which is not a 5-letter word technically. And so what happened was Jordan had kind of deleted himself off social media, which is a great idea, honestly. But he had kept the Bird app and was tweeting and had tweeted something about Flesh and Blood. And I'm like, "Oh, are you going to be at the Cincinnati calling? I'll be there." And his response was, "Wait, you play this game?" And then we got into conversations. We met up in Cincy. We hadn't seen each other in a few years because, COVID is a thing and a lot of other things that happened in that span of time. So suddenly we're talking about, okay, well, we both love this game and we love each other, and in a very platonic but still very grabby sort of way. And
that's only one way, by the way.
There was only one way. So what happened was we wound up talking in Cincinnati about doing a podcast, and that's where we kind of got in. Dagan, I met at the first night I started playing Flesh and Blood. I'd known him from Magic a little bit. He'd been around that game. He also played Pokemon, which he'll never admit to, so I'm just going to say it for him. He's also a very renowned meta something player. I don't know.
MetaZoo, we were going to get to that.
There's the one. Okay. So he writes articles at least, but the big thing was that I showed up, and that was Dagan was one of the people there, and that taught me the game in the 20 minutes or whatever before we drafted it for the first time. So that's kind of how that all coalesced.
I like the Jordan move was the old self-cancel. Just remove yourself from social media before things go bad. But you left Twitter up, and I guess to Logan's benefit, because you guys kind of were able to, I don't want to say find each other. It's really not that wholesome, but you know what? But that's that to a degree. I mean,
it was serendipitous a little bit. Like I had kind of like like I have liked Logan for 10 years. I stopped playing Magic 5 years ago, and was kind of just like, this is just like a friend that I have a casual acquaintance with now. And it was serendipitous that we got to do this thing that we both like together. And like, I knew that I liked Logan a lot. We had similar personalities and similar interests, and like we've gotten to grow that even more over the past year. And then I got to meet Dagan as a result of like knowing Logan through Flesh and Blood, which is great because Dagan's become a good friend of mine and carries me in tournaments. So
Yeah, Dagan,
Y'all's back has to hurt. Like, I'm sorry.
It's pretty sore.
You've got to be. You're kind of like coming in as a sort of. I don't want to say the strong silent type, but like somebody's got to be the responsible one, and that's kind of the vibe I'm getting off you. Like I've played against Dagan a few times, and I don't think I've ever beaten you. We've come close, or I've come close, but I think I've beaten you. I've never beaten you, but in this team event, well, like we'll get to that shortly, actually, because I just want to sort of quickly touch upon the Flesh and Pod podcast, because that is something that I have been on. I had an absolute blast having Logan on the show as well a couple of weeks ago. Was awesome. Dagan, do you just not have any interest? Like nothing much to say? Are you kind of like, I don't know if you guys remember the movie Mystery Men. There was like the Sphinx, where whatever the Sphinx said was just very kind of poignant and very, very
mysterious.
Wise. Exactly. Yeah. But until Ben Stiller figured it out, that it's just, all he's saying is just taking a phrase and flipping it on its head and blowing people's minds. Dagan, are you actually like the wise one in this trio here? Like, and that's why you're kind of just distancing yourself from Flesh and Pod?
No, I'm gonna be honest. I'm just a really busy guy with like full-time work and everything and locals. So like, I just have not done much.
So he's a show-off. He's a show-off, is what he's saying.
He's actually closer to the shoveler. He shovels very well.
Yeah, so there's this bell curve of when you know Dagan. The beginning of knowing Dagan, you think Dagan is a silly goose, and then you know Dagan a lot, or you start to know Dagan, you go, wow, Dagan's like the best player I've ever met in my life. I really like need to like get in this guy's head. And then you get to know him even more, and you start to go, wait, Dagan's just a silly goose. And you're at the top of the bell curve right now, Matt, where like, you're like, man, I really respect this guy. He's a great Flesh and Blood player. You're not far from silly goose again. Don't worry.
Oh, yeah, you'll get there. We'll get there by the end of Go Again. We'll definitely have a better.
You'll be there.
Yeah. So that said, the Ohio event, when did this get on your radar for you guys? We'll start with you, Dagan. I mean, you're the most competitive out of everybody. Everyone's competitive in spirit and whatnot, but I mean, yourself, you're definitely, I say the most decorated. You've have a top 4 finish at US Nats, and that's definitely a feather in your cap. But what led you to the Ohio event?
I mean, it was pretty straightforward. Logan just told me about the event and told me, you're going. So I was going. That was it. That's pretty much the story there.
So was it bribery, coercion? Like, what is it? How did it work on that one, Logan?
I have some Godfather qualities within the community. I kind of just define what we're doing and then go do it. And anybody that wants to come with is more than welcome. Knowing that Dagan is both a silly goose on the bell curve and occupies a spot on the top of the bell curve, and also occupies being a silly goose on the bell curve again, I figured that this is the type of tournament and the type of scene that he'd really enjoy. And I knew a lot of people were coming that he would have a good time with. You know, like people he hadn't necessarily met or spent time around, enough time around you, Jordan, a few other people that were there as well. And I figured that was going to be a good time to kind of get him into the community a little bit more, because he is a very good player. He's not going anywhere. You're going to see him do a lot. He's like 9 years old, so he's totally got a lot of time. So with that, I kind of, by saying forcing him is the wrong word, but I did say, we're going to go. So you probably need this time off work. You probably should just get that booked.
Jordan, were you equally as a pushover when it came to this? Did you just get a message in your inbox at one point from Logan saying you're going, and then you went, or was this something that you had already just been aching for?
No, yeah. So Logan's Godfather reign stops at the Iowa border. Fortunately, it doesn't. It doesn't go all the way across the Rust Belt. But no. So Keith is one of the owners of the Realm that put on this was ultimately a 13K weekend. We got in touch with him because my wife is from that area, middle of nowhere, Ohio, and we were up there for Christmas last year, and she just Googled a game store to go in and buy me Flesh and Blood packs for like a stocking stuffer, and went into his store and started chatting him up. And he's like, oh, you have a podcast? That's really cool. And like, if you've ever met Keith from the Realm, you'll know that guy can talk to you for like 10 hours and it'll be the most enriching conversation you've ever had. And so he was like, let's do business together. There's nothing about who we are. Abby could be lying, like what, just very much just like a, let's do business together. And so we did. And so our podcast has worked with the Realm and gotten kind of like the scoop on the development of these. And as soon as I knew that there was a second one, because there was a 5K a couple months ago that I was lucky enough to top 8. As soon as I knew that there was a second one, I was like, oh, there's not an option to not go.
Yeah, we're going to dig into Realm Gaming specifically because, like you mentioned, Keith and his brother Jacob are phenomenal human beings. Like, they were just excellent through and through. The hospitality that they made, not just me feel. Again, this isn't meant for me to sort of shake my feathers and sort of show off. Like, they recruited me as talent for the event as a broadcaster and whatever, but the way that they made everybody feel was incredible. We'll get to that shortly, but I want to talk a little bit about the unique circumstances as to what the tournament was supposed to be, because the appeal of this tournament originally was that this was frankly the biggest thing that was going to happen on the tail of Uprising's release. The first snapshot, if you will, of good players slapping together new cards in a classic constructed format, but that kind of got derailed in the US, not necessarily in Canada, but in the US, based on what everyone knows is a distribution or a supply chain sort of hang up where there's a week delay. And this was legitimately meant to be the weekend that Uprising comes out. People better be on their game, bring their decks, and figure it out. And the unique circumstances of this were that the bans were legal, or the bans were in place, such as Living Legend, Chain, No Starvo, but the new cards were not legal. So there was this kind of no man's land in between these very unique circumstances, which were frankly just out there for the 7-day period. So the people who showed up for the CC event, a lot of their planning may have gone out the window at the last minute. Dagan, were you going into the CC event? What was your game plan prior to the announcement of the fact that, there was a delay? Did you already have a deck in mind? Were you already, theory crafting? Did you kind of have a lock on what you were going to bring?
Not even remotely. I'll be honest, I put like zero preparation into this. I built like a Rhinar deck, a few days before the tournament, but by the time I was even preparing for it, it was already after the announcement. So it didn't affect me that much personally. But
and Dagan's a coward too, because he was all on Twitter, in Carolina's friend of the everybody, I guess, at this point in time, because she was coming with Dash, and he was posting like pictures of cropped images of Arg Smash to kind of let her know. And then he just backs out the last minute and being a total coward and plays Briar. So I got to call him out for that. I almost left him in Ohio, but since he carried us, I just let him get in the car.
I share some burden of that because he needed to borrow captain's calls from me, and I could have just not. And this was my fault. Like, they were at my house, and I felt pressured. He was in my home. I had to make him leave.
Yeah. So
he bullied me.
So if Logan's kind of like the Dawn of Iowa, and you're out here, Jordan, dishing out favors in Ohio, does that make you like the Dawn of Ohio?
I wouldn't say that. I'd say I'm more just like no, because I'm not that influential in my local community, to be honest. I don't go to a lot of local events, much to my own chagrin. Like, it's definitely to my detriment. I should definitely be going, but we have bigger dons than me out here.
Yeah, you got to go to one of the local game stores. Maybe not Realm Gaming, but just go around and be like, oh, when you're running a draft and somebody asks, does anyone have a Phoenix Flame? You're like, yeah, but what are you gonna do for me? This one. At a certain time, at a certain point in history, I may come up to you and maybe ask you a favor, and maybe you got to do it for me, and maybe it might be completely out of proportion from me giving you a token. But hey, listen, it is what it is.
You want me to do what to that guy? You gave me a free token.
Yeah, exactly.
Do it anyway. Do it for free.
Exactly. This is just the test to make sure that my real, actual, kill this guy, and then we'll talk.
We're not whacking people here. We're just talking. We're having friendly conversations.
Wait a second, Fat Tony. You mean the mob only did me a favor, expecting something in return?
Yeah, exactly.
For shame. So, did either of you, Logan or Jordan, have kind of a grip on what you guys were going to take ahead of the announcement for the unique meta or the unique rules for this? Did you guys, any of you, have an idea of maybe bringing like a Fi or a Dromai or even an Icelander?
Yeah, I was 100% going to play Fi. List was built, knew what I needed. Still need a Shuko for, because I've opened 2 cases. It's the only legendary I'm missing, but, and So I had it all built, had it like on TTS ready to go, know what I needed. This came out and I'm like, now what do I do? I guess I just play Katsu. I just stay ninja. Just ninja life all day. So I just played Katsu and called it good. But yeah, I figured with maybe Starvo gone, I had a shot, but I got oldemed and that'll happen. But yeah, I was definitely going to play Fi because the deck looked good. It looked like it was very chain linky, with a lot of go wide, which is something I'm familiar with having played Katsu a decent amount in testing. So yeah, I was fully prepared to bring that deck and just kind of audible to something as similar as I could get without playing Briar, because I just didn't want to be the person playing Briar. Looking at you, Dagan.
Jordan, how about yourself? Was there any sort of, read on the meta, as it were? Because everyone had their own ideas.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of drawn towards aggressive sequence-oriented decks in games anyway. So Fi was definitely on my radar. I unfortunately wasn't going to be able to play Saturday regardless. We had commitments through Saturday, so I was a Friday and Sunday boy. But if I had gotten the option to test for it or like bring a deck, it would have been Fi, because of, like, again, I like decks where sequencing matters, but I also like going wide and attacking a bunch. But that being said, I've put zero time into this meta only because all the road to nationals around me are draft, which is the coolest.
Mm-hmm.
So I've really only focused on limited, like different teams are making like draft pick lists and things like that. So we've kind of been all in on limited here in the Central Ohio area because the ubiquity of our road to nationals being drafts.
Yeah, I believe the message I got from you was like, "F this wedding I'm at." Is that kind of?
Yeah, well, I don't know if this guy listens to my podcast or yours, so maybe.
That was a great wedding, and everyone was happy. That's what I was kind of wondering. For sure, they're not listening to mine.
We've got better things coming. Just go ahead, Jordan. I'm in love right now.
Yeah.
We ended up being able to make it Saturday night to do some social stuff after the Realm event, which was great. But I definitely haven't tested any CC only because like the format's not super relevant to me right now.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about the extracurriculars that occurred.
Yes, God, please.
Definitely get to that shortly. But a team tournament was essentially the apple of everyone's eye when it came to this weekend, because again, a very screwy CC meta with people kind of just, a lot of it was just, I'm just going to bring what I know and maybe make a couple adjustments here or there. Frankly, a lot of it was just like, well, I don't have to sideboard for Starvo. I don't have to sideboard for Chain. Like, this is incredible. Like, that's a great relief when it comes to approaching this. But forming this team, it wasn't just literally you, Logan, who was like, you and you, like, report at this time, and that's all it was.
You're not far off.
It's pretty close.
Yeah, that's actually pretty close to what it was. It was so Dagan was driving with me, and Jordan and we'd been talking about teaming, and it was just the two of us in the car at the time we talked about it. Didn't know if Jordan was going to be there to play on the Sunday event. He actually didn't know if he was wanting to play the Team Blitz event, and this is when it was still a Blitz event, and then he was going to show up and just draft or whatever. And then it became Team Sealed, and Jordan and I share this intense, passionate, red-hot love for Team Sealed. It is romance novel quality. It is Jackie Collins with Fabio on the cover. Type
50 Shades of Uprising.
50 Shades of Uprising. 50 Shades of Fi.
Yeah.
We're ready to do this. As soon as that happened, it was like, well, now you're going. So I already have Dagan. So you just want to do Yumi and Dagan? He's like, yeah, sure, that sounds great. And then Abby yelled at us. But so that's kind of how it happened and how the team kind of formed up.
I just picture it right now where it's like, okay, is everyone here? And then like literally after everything's locked in, just Jordan be like, oh, my wife. My wife! I completely forgot.
You're not far from like 90% of the ways that I approach social situations. I am so absent-minded, and like Abby is like really into this, and I was like, "Oh, you probably need a team." Son of a
yeah.
Right.
I won't even mention the forgotten chicken fingers incident of when I was going out for coffee. You're like, oh, are you going? Can you pick me this up? I'm like, sure, no problem. And get back and just deliver it. And then you see Abby shooting daggers right through your skull of like, oh, nothing for me? It's like, yeah, okay, we're thinking.
I only bought food for like 6 people, but it's cool.
Yeah, no, It's all good. I went for coffee and came back with literally just like a food truck worth of stuff.
You know what's funny is I didn't know. I almost disputed that charge on my credit card because I didn't remember going to a Burger King, and I was like, I didn't go to a Burger King in Mansfield. Do I need to get a new credit card? And I was like, what did I do? Oh right, Flake got me stuff from Burger King.
Well, thank God that you didn't report it, because I would probably have not made it through customs at that
You would have
point.
lost your visa and everything.
Absolutely.
If they're going to allow you to bring the pizza, they're going to allow you to enter the country again based on that. So you're fine.
That was a fascinating conversation to come through customs with. It was just basically anything to declare. I'm like, well, not really. They're like, well, you didn't buy anything there? I'm like, actually, there's a large pizza in the trunk. He's like, what? I'm like, there's a large pizza in the trunk. He's like a piece of pizza? I'm like, no,
Nope.
a full pizza. He's like, why are you bringing a pizza back? I said, because it's the best pizza I've had, because Toronto is terrible for pizza. It's ass. It's absolute ass for pizza. So I was like, this is it. This is what I'm bringing back. Screw any other souvenirs, anything else. Like, you didn't buy anything? I'm like, I bought a pizza. Like, what do you like?
What do you want from me, man?
Damn it, government. Like, I'm declaring a pizza. And
Hopefully you have the declaration form still. I really hope that is on there.
I literally just, they're like, yeah, like I travel enough through to the States and back in a year, and I have like the pre-check and all that Nexus stuff. So literally everything's on file. They're like, yeah, you're good. Just, enjoy your pizza that's been in your trunk for 6 hours. I'm like, hell yeah, it's the best kind of pizza.
Trunk pizza is the best pizza.
The cheese goes from mozzarella into some sort of other type of cheese based on age.
Did you buy it new before you left, or
No.
is that the pizza from
No,
the thing
that's
we'll
the
talk about later?
speakeasy pizza. That's speakeasy leftover pizza that was
Wow,
going to
right.
go in the garbage. And I was like, you give me that 8-pound pizza right now. And
Wow.
absolutely. I'm pretty sure it like shaved like 1 mile per gallon off of my fuel efficiency. It was that freaking dense. For yourself, Dagan, in terms of like the team strategies and such like that, you're, everybody's kind of agreeing that you're probably the best of the three. And I don't know if that's, if they're willing
not
to...
kinda. That's just 100%
Yeah,
true.
objectively clear.
Yeah.
Did you take point in terms of strategizing on this? And like, how much can you possibly even strategize or look ahead to when you have no idea what the card pool is going to be?
I mean, before the event started, we pretty much locked in who was playing what deck. We locked in that I was going to play Dromai, then Jordan was going to play Fi, and then Logan was going to play Icelander. And then we just kind of divvied up all the cards, distributed like the tech sideboard cards, and then that was about it.
And when it comes to, because the rules were not necessarily rigid in the sense that it has to be all 3 heroes. That's kind of where it led to. But there was a lot of discussion leading up to this that, you know what, if the if the Dromai pool sucks, maybe we run 2 Fis. And I don't think that's completely out of the question. Was that ever on the radar to maybe lean towards another hero?
I don't think there was enough cards that you could even do that, because like originally I thought it was 6 packs per player, in which case maybe it would be possible, but we each got 4 packs. So I don't think there's enough cards to really distribute,
And
to have like 2 Fis.
yeah, Logan on Icelander, man. One of the things that I have to say is that it is not easy. Icelander was at the pre-release at Harry Tarantula in Toronto. I basically said I didn't really care about finishing or top 8ing or any of that nonsense. All I wanted to do was just have a good time and open packs. And I said that if I get at least 10 blues, I'm going to play Icelander because I want to try it. I've really had no reps on Wizard. I got 11 blues. I played it and I managed to top 8. And I was like, this is busted. And then I'm not necessarily busted. I'm like, if I have a weak pool and was able to top 8, imagine if I had a good pool. But I think that there's part of it, Logan, where the Icelander pool is not just about having enough blues. It's about having a blue in the arsenal every freaking turn.
Turn.
If you do not have a blue in the arsenal, you basically the house of cards just falls apart. You talk to us a little bit about, I don't want to say the struggles of playing Icelander, but the fragility of those matchups.
Well, the struggle bus is real. I honestly, when I saw the pool, I thought I had a pretty good Icelander deck because I was kind of comparing it to draft, like what you see in a draft when you're drafting Icelander. If you have 12 plus blues, you're probably, in an okay spot with some of the support spells you have. And here I had 16. And so I was like 16 playable blues should be just fine. But the difference being that in draft, Arcane Barrier on the Icelander and Fi side sort of doesn't exist as much because it gets taken early or whatever, and you may dodge it. whereas every single deck in Team Sealed has a piece of Arcane Barrier, just straight up. And that was just eating me alive when I don't have enough of the other cards to go with it. And so I'm kind of like, I went 1-6 or whatever it was with Icelander on the day. It was very horrible. And I was a little bit upset with myself as far as not being able to pilot the pool correctly and like letting down my teammates, making them carry 320 pounds on their back that they just didn't necessarily need to. And then I saw Michael Feng's pool when we got to the finals, and I went, oh, I don't actually have a good pool. This is a good pool.
What made it so good, out of curiosity?
22 playable blues. I believe 10 of them were ice, and then enough frozen bolts to just do whatever you want to do, and then also a rainbow of healing bombs, which I also didn't have.
Yeah, no, I'm fully on board with that. And the common strategy or the common school of thought was 15 was the magic number. And I was like, I don't think it is. I don't think that 15 is the right amount. And when I was aching to draft 15, for instance, in the top 8 at Harry Tarantula, I was in a pod with 2 other Icelanders. And I thought I got away with murder when I found 15 blues, of which I think 9 of them were ice. I said, what are these other clowns doing? And essentially, when I got the 15, the second that you lose an arsenal, because the way I was kind of thinking of it is like, let's say, and it happened to me, you draw a hand of all blues, and that feels good. So great, I got blues, I can pick and choose what I want to put in the arsenal. Mm-hmm. The next turn was like, I drew 3, and I was like, okay, so now that's 7 of the 15 gone. That's essentially half of my blue pool is now gone. And there's still 20 cards left in the deck. So I have 7 through 20. Like, it's not a sure thing. And eventually you stumble, and it became problematic. But when it comes to, like you mentioned, your teammates picking you up, Jordan, for yourself on Fi, was there a lot of discussion amidst the team during the games? I mean, some teams are just play your game, there's not much consulting. But did you ever feel the pressure? Like, did Logan come sort of lean over to you or something and say, yeah, you got to do this? Like, how often did that kind of occur where you have that kind of extra pressure, that pick me up value going on?
I'm looking at Dagan's camera because so Dagan was our BC, and I am an absolute banana sometimes when it comes to Flesh and Blood. I am just like, I can force 4 damage here, do it regardless of the consequences of like 30 seconds from now. And there was one turn where I mean, a couple of times throughout the day, I asked Dagan on like what I thought were very crutch turns. I was like, hey, what am I doing here? I'm really confused. And Dagan's like, what do you mean it's ABC? Like, we're done. And I was like, oh yeah, right. And he didn't like, it wasn't rude. It wasn't like, it wasn't rude. And I didn't take it that way. Like, I fully accept that like Dagan is like infinitely better at this game than I am. And I learned a ton this weekend by virtue of being able to be like, here's why I'm confused. Can you help me? And then hearing his thought process. You don't get to do that in like a classic constructed context. And so getting to do that in like a limited context made me a better player as a whole. And I cost our team some potential. In round 1, I lost very early. It was my only loss on the day, but I lost very early. So put a lot of pressure on Logan and Dagan to win both their matches. And it was because I played so terribly and like kind of left us out to dry with some bad sequencing that like Dagan explained to me later on why it was bad. And because of like getting to interact with Dagan in that way this weekend, that is not going to happen to me again. I'm so motivated to do well and like play more and test more. Like, I have a testing schedule now, and like all because I got to sit next to this guy that is like one of the best players in like our country and like get to learn from him. So like I kind of like ran with your question a little bit wider than
run intended it.
But like there were times where I was like, hey, I'm really confused. I don't know if this is hard or easy. And sometimes it was a little more challenging. And a lot of the times it was like, hey, just like do the thing that makes sense. You don't need to overthink this. And like remembering that and like being like, I could do this. I want to learn how to do this the way Dagan does was like my key takeaway from the weekend. So like I'm basically on fire for Flesh and Blood right now. All because of this like team event. But I don't even know if I answered your question. but
yeah, Dagan and I have we test together quite a bit in person in Des Moines. I always think it's good to test and play against the people who are better than you, and he clearly is better than me. So a lot of times I get to get into the thought process, and Dagan starts at this is awesome, and then hops in the tank, creates a dumpster version of whatever the deck is, plays the dumpster version, hops back in the tank, says this deck is good again, hops back in the tank, and then says no, this is trash and throws it away. And this cycle will happen within like 3 days and continually happen. But over that course of time, we've kind of just developed into, I understand the language, I understand what he's doing a little bit. I kind of got a little bit of insight into the one brain cell and how it operates in Dagan's head. And it's just the one, but it's really good. It is an awesome brain cell. It kicks some, it
I was
kicks
gonna
serious
say,
ass.
with two, at least they can rub against each other and create friction. And
Well, he
Metazook
sold
killed
the other one to buy GME stock, so that's he's
That's
down
true,
to just the last one. Yeah,
He's down to the one. And so a lot of times when I was looking for input, or he was looking for input, he would just lean over to me, show me his hand, and be like, "Are we chilling?" It's like, "Yeah, cool." And it's because I knew what he was talking about in his hand. And for him, it's like, "I think I'm dead," and he's like, not yet."
Yeah.
And I'd be like, "Oh yeah, right. I guess I'm not dead yet." And that's just the entirety of our conversations. And then Jordan and Dagan's were a lot more in depth because Jordan was actually in positions to win versus me not being in positions to win. And Dagan's stuff was usually just as simple as, I have a thought here. I have 2 ways to go. Which one do you think? I'm leaning one way, but I'm not going to say it. And I'd say, this is the way I think. And you're like, okay, then we're chilling. That means that we absolutely agree and we're just ready to go.
all right, seat meta is what a big topic of conversation for a while leading up to at least Las Vegas. I didn't know what the hell seat meta was, and I literally asked. Well, this is the conversation.
You're better off for not knowing. Yeah,
I suppose. Again, you know what? Now I have one brain cell because the 2 I had, one of them killed itself trying to understand and discuss seat meta, which frankly I'm okay. And the other one is honestly it's up in the air. There's a loneliness occurring.
It's on the floor of a speakeasy as we speak.
Yeah, it's peeling itself out of a bottle of Kraken, frankly, but it's all good. The reason I'm bringing up seat meta, frankly, is because you mentioned the fact that Dagan was in seat B. And for those who are unaware, when you're playing team sealed, the seats you're locked into your seat, A, B, or C. So in that order, you have to sit, and you're playing against another team that is then designated A, B, or C. So the A's play each other, B's, C's, etc. But in team format, there is the opportunity for players to consult with others. However, from what I understand, you could only consult with the player adjacent to you. So this does kind of create a little bit of a quote-unquote meta in terms of where you're placing the player and what hero they will be. Can you talk to me a little bit, Dagan, about seat meta and your assessment of it? And does it matter, you being on seat B and the hero you played, did that ever factor into any kind of decisions?
I mean, first thing, no, seat meta is just not a thing. It pretty much just comes down to the baseline of who you want the most communication with between the overall team. And in this case, it would have been me in this instance. But as far as I knew, you could communicate, if your game was over, player C could move over and sit next to player A, and they could communicate too.
Okay.
I don't think that was as much of an issue. But it's pretty much just all about the communication.
You can also just do reaching across and showing people hands and stuff like that too, and getting input across the team. You can actually interact with your entire team the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I wasn't sure about that. I do recall, for the Vegas one, I was on a team with Doa and Rick from BCW, and they had basically said, Flake seat B, and I said, I don't even know what that means. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, why? They're like, well, you're likely you might finish ahead of everybody, because at the time I was playing Chain. You're playing an aggressive deck. You might finish ahead of everybody, and we'll need you as consulting. And I was like, that's fascinating.
So the issue that could arise is if you're seat A and you stand up to go help seat C, if you stand up to such a way that a judge thinks you could have seen their cards or whatever, you can be asked to leave the play area. So you have to be very careful about how you scoot over to look. It's very much
you just army crawl.
I was gonna say under some barbed wire through the mud, and then show up out of the wall like Rambo.
Yeah, and it's not very conducive while matches are going on. So I liked Dagan and beat C this weekend because regardless of the decks, the hero meta for seats is complete folly. But being able to access Dagan whenever Logan or I needed to is more important than Logan and I needing to access each other.
I feel we would always need a Dagan between any of us, frankly, because we would probably be making too many dumbass jokes amidst ourselves.
Yeah, that's also true. The honest our honest plan was, okay, hopefully we have a crack to draw my pool. so that we can put the best player with the best deck in the middle. And so we have the consulting going on, and then they just have to win all of their matches, and Jordan and I have to play 50-50 Flesh and Blood. Seems easy.
It's actually what happened.
And that is what happened. Yeah. Except for it wasn't 50-50. It was me playing 1X and Jordan playing X1.
Hey,
So-
that's the mirror you want, though, right? Like, that's kind of how it goes.
Yep.
The pressure that I felt when I was in middle seat, there was certain times where it's like, you know, Doa would finish and Rick would finish, and like they were 1-1, and then it's like, all right, you got to pull us through here. And it's just like, okay, it's the last turn. I'm on chain. I've got a pocket full of blood dead. If I don't convert on this nonsense, it is basically game over. And the pressure in that is also part of it. But the appeal of team, the format itself is basically just like you mentioned. This is what gets so many people horny for Flesh and Blood, and what many of the pros have basically been lobbying for a while. And I think that LSS has honestly kind of taken note and just basically doubled down and said, you know what, we're going to do more of these, because the biggest fear, and we're going to talk a little bit about Realm Gaming, Keith and Jacob at Realm Gaming in Ohio, a phenomenal store. If you go check out the realmgamingnetwork.com, you can see their store and see their stuff. But the issue I think that they were concerned about a little bit was the fact that once the Uprising got delayed and the format was a little bit off, they kind of created and altered things and said, all right, we're doing an Uprising team sealed, and that actually spiked interest despite the decline of it amidst that announcement. They're like, we're going to do a team sealed, and suddenly everyone's like, yeah, the mojo's back on fire here. But
we're going to drive 14 hours to a murder cabin so we can play Team Seal. That actually is something people did.
That's a whole other episode of unsolved mysteries, frankly. But it's just, it literally, every time that I would get a message from Elaine, all I heard in my mind was, if you have any information leading to the and it's like,
It's Robert Stack.
Yeah, completely Robert Stack in his trench coat and his leathery face, just like,
oh no,
leading to the death of these 6 mice on the floor, please administer an immediate tick check and remove yourself from the venue.
Yeah, I have hives. Is that bad? Do you think I got those from my murder cabin?
Oh,
yeah, probably. Yeah,
quite possibly. But Realm Gaming is the
you sure did.
Realm Gaming are the people, the wonderful people. Keith and Jacob at Realm Gaming were the ones who put this together. They were the architects of this. It was a 10K. There was a lot invested in this. There was a venue that was rented, a hall that was rented, broadcasting that was done of the event, which was a lot of fun. I got to work with Derek Oswald, aka Charmer. I got to work with Brendan Patrick, who's sort of dipping his toe in the casting pool as well. It was just a lot of fun. Talk to us a little bit about Realm Gaming and your thoughts, not just about the tournament, but the culture and the community that they have put together, and that they cultivate and harvest. I don't say harvest. That sounds harvesting is what they were going to do at the cabin had they stayed there one more night.
Yes, Elaine's skin was going to be harvested. You are correct.
Correct. Yeah, they were going to make curtains out of their skin. But Dagan, talk to
a sweet cosplay. They're going to make a very nice cosplay.
Exactly. Yeah, whoever owned that cabin was going to cosplay as all 5 of those people all at once, and that's
my god.
Yeah, it would have been very. Yeah, this is a game worn skin. It's like, no,
Ethan Van Sant. Yeah, it's game worn skin. It's
no thanks. Yeah, this is a sweater made from Ethan's supple curly hair. We're not doing that. That's just terrible. Dagan, talk to us a little bit about Realm Gaming, your impressions of the tournament, and Keith and Jacob who run the store, because I had a great time, and I think that they're good people. The tournament itself was awesome. Talk to us a little about your experience with them.
I mean, this is the first time I've really interacted with him that much. I interacted with Keith once a little bit at the Calling Indie, I think, but that's about it. But it's one of those things where it's like, as soon as you meet someone, they're just going to be like, you just want to be around them, though. They're like super friendly. You could tell that they wanted this tournament to be more of like a fun experience than just like they were running the tournament,
No, you're
huge in
right.
the community aspect. Yeah.
They were very much in interested in making sure, much like I kind of got like the James White vibes off the fact that it's like James White wants to make sure that the experience is awesome. The game is awesome. The events are awesome. That people are really excited to be there. And I think that Keith and Jacob did a very good job making sure that everybody that was there felt good about it, that they were rewarded for taking the time to go out there, because frankly it was in the middle of nowhere. And I mean, that's the one, I wouldn't call it criticism, but we spoke a lot after the fact and during the event, and they were talking about how the showing of people who actually showed up to the event wasn't necessarily where they had wanted it to be. There was 56 people there. I think they were hoping for somewhere closer to over 100 for a 10K. But a lot of that had to do with location. Look, I had to drive to a McDonald's to get a Wi-Fi signal to get my GPS sorted so I can drive to the event. Like, it's the nature of where things are. But I was very, very happy with the fact that when it's like there was food for people, there was there was they ran events, they ran side events, they did make sure everybody just were enjoyable and had a good time. And Logan and Jordan and Dagan, you guys also spent time in the speakeasy, which we'll get to shortly. But the community atmosphere that was generated at this particular event, talk to us a little bit about, the importance of continuing this momentum, because we always talk about leaving these events and how not necessarily depressing it is, but that you're coming back to reality. You've sort of had this hit of joy and community and seeing your friends, and suddenly it's like, I got to go back to real life. It's kind of a downer, but while you're in there, it was something awesome.
Yeah, so and I mentioned this on Flesh and Pod, new episodes every Tuesday, everybody. Make sure to like and subscribe. 5 stars, please. And what I said was, whenever you're in this community space like this, there's the big umbrella, little umbrella. So there's the big community umbrella of Flesh and Blood. There's then the smaller community umbrellas. The Instant Speed community is an umbrella. Flesh and Pod. We're all little umbrellas under one big tent. And in the big tent atmosphere, there's always somebody there are the people that you should know, the list of people you should know for a variety of reasons. And Keith and Jacob Bartram should be on that list just because of how good they are for the community. They are there they are player first, experience first people. And they're the type of people that are going to make this game grow outside of LSS, even though LSS does a tremendous job. You still need these ancillary partners to help carry. And they are picking up that load and running with it and doing it with passion and joy and a fervent need to make sure that everybody's experience is perfect, as good as they can make it. And that is such a valuable part of building a community and maintaining a community and maintaining and building momentum that it cannot be overstated. I just want everybody to hear this and say, these Realm Gaming Network things are not going away. There's going to be more. And you're doing yourself a disservice to not be there, because it is a tremendous event run by tremendous people who are not afraid to put their heart and soul into all of it. So just come and enjoy it. And maybe there's a secret speakeasy. Who knows?
Yes. We're going to get to the speakeasy in 1 second. The one thing I just actually wanted to touch upon real quick, it kind of came to me, which was when you're talking about them wanting to make sure that the experience was good and supporting the game. There was an incident that occurred at the tournament where a player had a foil Gorganian tome that was essentially, the judges ruled it as quote unquote marked. It's not like the player purposely marked it or anything. Basically, what occurred was there was a card that was very visible or very apparent where it was in the deck. Was the card counterfeit or whatever? Basically, the player themselves acquired the card like days prior from a trade or something like that, and they just jammed it in the deck because they had the list and they went off with it. The judges in the back had multiple shots of Judge A would shuffle, put the deck on the table. Judge B would then cut to that card. They did that, I think, 10 to 15 times, and every single time they were able to cut directly to that particular card. The player it was not intentional at all. I don't believe that the player was intentionally doing this. It's just the fact of the matter that the card was marked. What Keith and Jacob did, which is a tough situation to be in, and there was the one thing that bothers me was that there was like unwarranted criticism on Twitter and such, and I'm not going to get into that at all, because the problem about it, I find, is that the story wasn't exactly clear, because people think that's like, oh, the judges went in and overstepped their boundaries or something like that, and it was an unfair thing and blah, blah, blah because of foil, yada, yada. The judges were able to cut to the card accurately 15 out of 15 times. It's just the matter. Keith and Jacob offered to give that player, they did not disqualify the player. They had to, the judges gave a game loss. The Keith and Jacob went to the store and gave them cards to redo their entire deck. They're like, we don't want you to get caught with anything. Tell us what you need. We'll go and get the card for you. So they gave the player a Gorganian tome to use. They gave the player cards that they're like, you have any other foils that you're worried about? We don't want any of this, so we're going to give you the cards that you need to do it. Like, that's the kind of people that they are. And again, it's a tough situation. Not only that, Keith afterwards was mentioning, like, what else could I do to help this player? Like, can I offer them anything else? I said, you're under no obligation to do so. You know, to give them anything. You've already given them a replacement card that you had no obligation to do. You could have disqualified the player. You could have said, I'm sorry, like, you'll have to take the card out of the deck or play without it or whatever. They didn't do that. They helped the player at every way possible. And I thought that is definitely another little element to, you know, talk about how great they are.
Yeah, I want to say that there was obviously less people there than I think they would have liked, like we talked about, and the community would have liked. But those 56 people got the best tournament experience probably of their life. They ran it like a Channel Fireball or a Star City Games quality event. And like you said, like they ended up giving that player a free draft as well.
Yes.
This is geez, man, we're really sorry. Like, you know, and Keith describes himself as a real life bard. Likes to make people feel better, likes to make the environment better. And that is like absolutely to a T what was going on. And, you know, I think any criticism of the way the tournament organizers handled that is completely inappropriate. But like, you know, like they're my boys, and like seeing them do so well for that is like really encouraging for the Flesh and Blood space at large, like outside of like callings and like LSS sponsored events, because like the community is going to need these third party events ran. And if you have guys like Keith and Jacob doing it, we're in a good spot.
The other part was, frankly, the quote-unquote speakeasy, which was essentially... So there's it's funny, because the little town that my Airbnb was, that, you know, Charmer's Airbnb was, Dalen's, etc., was in this little part called in Loudonville, Ohio. And the main attraction was, frankly, a Taco Bell, but that was basically it. The dude who basically owns 90% of that entire city, a gentleman by the name of Dakota, one of the nicest people, very, very enthusiastic. He mentioned, he's like, I own that gym across the street. He's like, I own like most of this block. He's like, I own that gym. I basically made a gigantic, like, you know, like it's like an adult rec center. Like it's just it's a playground for adults. And he's like, you guys are welcome to hang out there if you guys want to drink down there. He's like, there's nothing for sale down there. You guys can just use the space. And I was like, okay, it's a basement with like a dartboard and a poker table or something.
Yeah.
No, you're not wrong.
No,
you are not wrong.
I am not wrong. But somebody just describe what that is, because I think amidst all four of us, we could probably not do it justice.
Yeah, you, Jordan, you want to chat at this?
I think we're going to probably hit different stuff, because like Logan and I were talking about plans, you know, like you were going to be in town, Flake, and like we wanted to make sure that we could like see everybody that we, you know, don't get to see every day. And we were talking about whether we were going to drive down to try to get people to drive down to Topgolf in Columbus, which is like a 40-minute drive. And Logan goes, well, what about a speakeasy draft? And I went, what the hell are you talking about, man? Like, do you just have a speakeasy in your pocket, you know?
He did ask that question.
And like, he was like, well, yeah, we're going to do a speakeasy draft. And it was basically in the basement of a bar.
The basement of a health club. Of a gym.
Yeah, like a 24-hour health club Dakota owned in this basement. He built a full-length bar, and then behind the full-length bar, it was just like a lounge area. Think like a VFW lounge or
pool table,
any type of pool table,
arcades,
but nicer with better Wi-Fi.
Yes,
arcade games. Yeah,
arcade games. There's a long table for our drafts. There was a dartboard, a poker table. There's a nice leather couch with a gigantic TV, and where you can just chill out with.
There's a
and whatever.
PlayStation 5.
The
Yeah, there's a
PS5.
PS5 down
You
there.
can't get those in the United States.
No,
See?
they don't exist.
Oh no, Dakota can. Dakota can
Yeah.
do it. But I mean, the main reason we were there, and again, everybody was there and had the same kind of like dog whistle reaction, where depending on what was said, there was the like the ears perk up kind of move. Like for some, it was y'all can drink down there, and like it's like and then other people are like, yeah, we'll order pizza. And then it's and there's a pool table, there's arcades, and it was funny because basically the entire time you have like Charmer and Dalen who are like, draft, you gonna do it? Draft me,
You
draft
guys
me.
got any booster packs on you?
Yeah,
yeah,
that was
boosties.
Dagan. Dagan was like, "Hey guys, I really don't care about drinking. Can we just do another draft, please?"
He,
Yeah.
he did degen. He did degen both drafts and won both of them.
I did. But like
So-
Dalen specifically, he had a box he was carrying around like the entire day. He's like, guys, you want draft? Want draft? Want to get together? Draft?
Draft.
And then, yeah.
Just pushing it on all of us.
Yeah.
Dalen is maybe the most fab horny guy I've ever seen in my entire life.
yeah.
He is
yeah.
opening up main for specifically Fab. Yes.
It's insane. Like this is a dude who next year or this year might be playing on an NFL team. Like that's his. He's all that's locked. Like his agent is already getting calls, right?
Mhm.
So he's likely going to be playing in the NFL this fall. He is just basically he's like, man, if I could just play Fab all day long, that's all I want to do. Like fame, fortune, Super Bowls, any of this interest you? Or
How
is
about
it
a draft?
or is it merely discussing how many blues makes a good Icelander deck? And like that's what gets his mojo going. And he's another specimen. And did you play against him, Dagan?
I did in the main event. I don't think I did in the speakeasy.
The main event, was that the one where did you play? You played him on stream, right?
I did.
Okay,
It was not close.
yeah, it was not close at all. I actually got to call that match, and
Oops.
yeah, no. Could you again? You can be as kind or as you can eviscerate him if you want.
I would really advise against that.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I don't think I could make myself do that. Like, he's too nice of a guy,
That's true.
Wait, did you house
Yeah.
him?
It was not close. Like, he was.
Okay.
I mean, it was a really bad matchup for him. Like, he's on Prism, I'm on Briar. Like, I'm supposed to just slap
Okay.
him. And then he also got unlucky in addition to that, so it was just not. It wasn't going to work for him. No matter
Gotcha.
how hard he tried. Yeah.
The description I got was I got bodied. And usually, sometimes whenever something goes wrong, Dalen will elaborate and say, oh, this happened, or I misplayed here, or this happened, and, I couldn't find this, or whatever. He was just, no, like at every juncture, it was like every fork in the road, I'd made the wrong choice kind of thing. But like everything went wrong. Like he's like, I got bodied. I got absolutely bodied. So and he is, when it comes to Prism, probably he's in the top 5 in the world in terms of understanding and knowing that deck. So that's pretty solid. We're going to wrap up this segment just talking about the fact that Realm Gaming actually wants to run more of these. And they were worried in terms of essentially the sort of the optics. If you're there, it's like, well, there's not many people there. On paper, the event seemed lackluster. But for those who were there, they understand just how freaking amazing it was to have that event. And they are planning more. I know that I spent easily, half an hour to an hour talking with Keith and Jacob about how we envisioned not just future tournaments, but unique community events surrounding a tournament. They want to establish themselves as something that goes beyond registering, giving your gem ID, showing up, and bouncing out if you go X2. Like that, they don't want any of that. They want people to enjoy the experience. Do you have any idea of what they're thinking of doing?
I do actually.
Yeah.
So we, Flake, you and I had a conversation on the show a few weeks ago, and we got into this really weird tangent and tank about throwing a pro wrestling style event. And the podcast went live, and the podcast was live for probably the hour and 40 minutes that the podcast was. And I had a message from Keith saying, I need it on this pro wrestling event. And I'm like, it's not real. Like we were just shooting. Like we weren't really like doing it. We just thought it'd be really cool. He's like, yeah, it sounds really cool. I want to do it. And I'm like, okay, that sounds awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that they're literally trying to figure out how to plan and how to just take this fever dream of Matt DeMarco and Logan Peterson and making it real, which is incredible. They want to do the Realm Gaming stuff, these types of tournaments that we had this weekend as a circuit that has points, that has, that that people can kind of grind on a little bit and get that kind of mentality and that feel again. They just want to keep doing stuff and they want to do cool things. I don't know what else that you heard, but those are the main things I knew of.
Well, yeah, Jordan, you can kind of tag onto that.
Yeah, no, I mean, Keith is definitely a dreamer. Keith and Jacob are definitely dreamers, and I think that like the space needs that. And I think we're kind of at the point where like FAB community is desperate for events. You know, we talk all the time about it's a shame that we don't know when the next North American Calling was. Heads up, it was last weekend. You know, like that was kind of the time. Like Keith and Jacob Bartram are like filling in these things, and the events, the premier events that aren't necessarily like the wrestling style invitational things. Those are going to be really cool. I know that they're doing a lot of big things in their local store as well. That's really cool. Or like if you are in the Greater Columbus region, like there's a lot of great stores here. We're very lucky, but like I have a special place in my heart for these two guys because of like we talked about. You don't show up, play a couple of rounds of Flesh and Blood and leave. You get your money's worth in terms of what you spend. They want to add cosplay stuff. They want to add like contests for different things on the side. Like, they were consulting with Elaine about how to add a cosplay event. Like these guys are insane. Like they're absolutely insane. I'm excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, they're very much people who want to push the community element to it, and it's not, like I said, it's not just about prize money and wins and losses. They want to, generate a buzz about the game. They want to support the community there. And again, I am in no way affiliated with Realm Gaming. I'm not sponsored by Realm Gaming. None of that. I'm merely somebody who wants to promote good stuff within the community. And I think that Ohio was well worth the 14 plus hours I spent in a car. More than that, it was closer to probably about like 18 with all the traveling to and from venues and stuff like that. Over the weekend I put about 1,000 miles on my car, and it was all well worth it. And I cannot wait for future of those. So stay tuned. This is all I got to say, is that there's going to be more of these down the road, and they're going to be bigger, more smoke machine-y, more entrance music-y,
laser light showy,
exactly, more epileptic seizure warning-y, I guess is also part of it. But yeah, it's gonna be pretty rad. So ladies and gentlemen, that wraps this up, this segment. We've got Go Again with all three of the I'm trying to think of a group that had 3 people in it.
Rat Pack.
No, that was way more than 3. That is not 3.
There was Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr.
5, yeah.
Peter Lawford.
Yeah, there's plenty.
Yeah.
What's a good 3-pack for you guys? I guess Destiny's Child, but Destiny's Child had like 4 members or 5 members like starting out. But
we call ourselves Team Metapod, but that was more of a dig at Dagan more than anything else.
What's a good wrestling stable?
Oh,
there's a triple
three-man
threat
band. Well, there's 3-man band, which was around for a while. You had Keith Slater and
Jinder
Mahal.
Slater, I think, yeah, and Drew McIntyre.
Drew McIntyre, yes, 2 of which turned into champions.
Yeah, well, the other one's Heath Slater. Yeah,
the other one's Heath Slater, who actually around the like Raw 1000 episode like extravaganza just went around getting his ass beat by like old school wrestlers. Like Doink the Clown came out of retirement and beat the crap out of Heath Slater. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we will be back with Go Again after these words from BCW. Instant Speed is proudly supported by BCW Supplies. If you need protection for your cards, be it sleeves, deck boxes, storage, organizational tools, or hey, are you a comic book collector, a coin collector? BCW Supplies has your hookup. Use the code ISP10. Get 10% off all of your orders. Go to bcwsupplies.com. BCW, protect, store, display. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and we're about to go wide. This is a 3-pack edition over here, 3-man band. We still haven't figured out which one of you is he's
3 men and a Canadian. I don't know.
I guess. I mean, it's a show. It's like 2.5 men, but it's like 3.5 men. I guess I'm a half man. I don't know.
No, it's Dagan.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, Dagan's the half man in this one.
But he's the most. So. He's the best coiffed out of all of us right now. So
he's the most coiffed and the most decorated. So
yeah, frankly. I mean, if he's at 1% effort and the rest of us are cumulatively at 0, then frankly, he's just infinitely better than us either way, right?
Yeah, that is the math. Mm-hmm.
All right. Math checks out. All right. It is time for Go Again. 8 rapid fire questions. We're going to go through these as fast as possible because we got to do it's basically 8 times 3. So we're going to start this off right away. Let's go around the horn, starting with you, Dagan. What is your hidden talent?
The biggest one I can think of is I can count cards in blackjack.
That's pretty sweet. It's definitely not audio visual on Discord because you're.
Yeah.
What about you, Jordan?
I actually had to ask my wife when I saw the show notes. She said, teaching. You are very good at explaining things, but not mansplaining them. That's
good.
Kind of proud of that one, I guess.
Logan, I think I've asked you this before, but you can go ahead and remind us.
What I said was archery, because that was it. That is the thing that I don't do enough of, but probably now it's appearing on the Instant Speed podcast.
You are a 2-time champ. I
am 2-time champ.
I don't think there's any
belts.
There's no 3-time host. Like, in Saturday Night Live, there's like the 5-time host is like a very specific honor. I don't think there's any 3-timers on the show as like full-fledged episode people, but you're now a 2-timer, so congratulations. When you're doing your archery, do you ever go at very obscure sort of like, around a corner, or like, when you're firing the arrow at a very unorthodox sort of distance and trajectory? What I'm starting to say is, are you an angle shooter?
No, that is not how archery works.
Okay.
First of all.
Just want to make sure.
So no, I'm not. I am in no way, shape, or form an angle shooter in any regard, in any form or fashion. I actually despise that shit. You just no.
Just wanted to get there. We got there eventually. Next question is, amidst you three, who is the best Flesh and Blood player, starting with you, Jordan?
Dagan.
Logan?
Not close, Dagan.
Dagan?
I always feel weird answering stuff like that, but I guess I would have to say me here.
That's fine. You can say you.
It's unanimous. Yeah, we all know.
Okay.
It's fine.
All right.
I didn't include myself into this because otherwise it would have been too easy, but
Right, yeah, it would have been Dagan.
right.
It would have been definitely Dagan. Yeah.
The record speaks for itself at this point, so yeah.
Damn.
Starting with Logan, which Uprising hero will have the biggest impact on Classic Constructed?
I think it's. I don't even know that the other two will have an impact immediately or close to it. Phi, I think, is the one that actually impacts the current CC and will just be a consistent force for as long as they're around.
Dagan?
I'm going to say Icelander. I think she's got enough disruption. She can kind of fill in that role that Lexi's in right now. That might just show up every once in a while. I don't think any of the three of them are particularly crazy.
Yeah, I don't think any of them are really kind of going to fill the gap of like a tier 0 or like an obvious choice kind of thing. But I think, all right. Are you going with Dromai, Jordan?
No, I was going to say Phi, but I'm more in the camp that I don't actually think none of these are Bravo, Star of the Show, or Prism, or Briar,
or Chain.
Yeah, none of these are those.
All right. Which Simpsons character best describes you? And if you are not a big Simpsons fan, maybe you can just defer to a resident expert, which is, I guess, Logan, who can possibly just give you a character. But we'll start with you, Dagan.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Simpsons guy. I literally asked somebody like right before this, and they told me Johnny Tightlips. I don't know who that is.
Johnny Tightlips. Yeah, it's either Johnny Tightlips or Vinny the Squealer, and it's gonna be.
I think it's Johnny Tightlips. I think it's Johnny, but
yeah, I think that's correct. What do I tell your mother? Tell her to suck a lemon.
Yep.
Yeah. Jordan.
I'm gonna go with Dr. Hibbert. I am so I'm an attorney is my day job, and I have been told that I lack any type of tact in conveying bad news or softening information. So part of that is just I don't have I don't process information that way, so I don't think other people do, which is obviously wrong. But I'm also that warm and disarming way about it. So Dr. Hibbert is very misleading in the way that he talks to people.
Well, the prosecution came back and their offer is life in prison, no parole. Terrible. Logan?
Fat Tony.
Oh.
Yep. Playing into the mob aspect again. Just sort of, we have cigarette trucks and we move product around here. That's just what we do.
I'm gonna watch you smoke all of these cigarettes.
Yep. And then I tend to like to gather people around and not put them to work, but have them around and kind of help them through things. And while Fat Tony is not, I don't necessarily have the same motivations as Fat Tony. I still have that same familial aspect of for the people around me and try to making their lives a little bit better. I just don't do it through necessarily as nefarious means. Otherwise, it'd be Hank Scorpio because it's Hank Scorpio, and I think that Charmer actually accused me of being a Bond villain in my Twitter profile photo, and I'm like, well, Hank Scorpio wasn't exactly wrong.
He was.
So
And he just, if he never needs sugar, he's got it in his pockets.
it's got in his pockets.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, I will come to you if ever I need help with my pretzel wagon success. Absolutely.
Fair.
All right. In team format, which characteristics does a Seat B player need to have? Let's go with
One brain cell.
One. That's okay.
Quickly being able to evaluate like a game state. There was multiple times that I could just like show Dagan my hand, and within 5 seconds, we were on the way to like figuring out the plan, and then he was able to quickly transition back to his game. That's probably my pack one pick one for a CP player.
Logan?
And we were never close to going to time, and I think a lot of that was exactly what Jordan just said. The ability of the CB player to just kind of transition their brain from one thing to the next and not really lose track of what was going on. So it's almost the ability to quickly manage multiple streams of information, which makes sense for a card counter, and apply that knowledge across multiple streams at once, which is effectively what you're doing because you do have a time element too. It does exist.
Dagan?
Yeah, pretty much exactly what they said. Like being able to just process information very quickly and also have very good communication and chemistry with the other two people you're playing with.
Sounds
Because
good.
I remember specifically there was one example where Jordan was like, "What should I do here?" And he showed me my hands. I looked at his life total and I looked at his opponent's board at the time. I was just like, "Look at your life total." And he goes, "Oh, okay," and then just immediately does what I think he should do.
Yeah,
So
that was pretty fun.
it's just that communication, you know.
They're presenting 4 damage. I have 4 life. What do I do here? Probably block.
It was actually the inverse. I was at 20 and Brendan was at like 10 and was attacking me for 4, and I was trying to debate a block, and Dagan was like, "What? Just take the 4."
Yeah, block with your face. Just stick your head out and smile. That's basically all you need. In a mixed team format, who would play Blitz, who would play CC, and who would play Sealed?
Wow.
Oh, this is a good question.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I think.
Well, I mean, if you guys have something that you think that you're probably best suited for, or if you have suggestions, this one's wide open. I'm not going around the horn. You guys can just kind of shout it out.
Yeah.
My first
Go
read,
ahead,
guys,
Jordan.
was Dagan is on CC, Logan is on Blitz, and I'm on Sealed.
I think that's where I was too. So Dagan's either on CC or sealed. He's never on Blitz because he'll just play Reinar. And Jordan, I think, is either sealed or CC. And if that's the case, then that just defaults me to Blitz. And I'm decent. I'm a decent Blitz player. It's not that I'm ill-equipped to play Blitz. I've top-aided skirmishes and done fairly well at larger events with Blitz and have won some armories. I mean, it's not second nature or anything, but I can manage that format well enough to not be an embarrassment. And I think that Jordan is actually quite capable of evaluating a sealed pool and making a very good deck out of it, and also playing at a good enough level. And we still have our team communication, so we're just going to put Dagan in the CC seat and call it good.
I think that's fair. All right, this one is fun because I was absolutely headlong into this one. What is the dumbest thing that you've bet on, that you've ever bet on? And now I am also possibly an answer on this because you two doofuses decided that when I started picking up, so in the speakeasy there was a pool table, and I was like racking up 9-ball because I love playing 9-ball, and I hadn't played or touched a pool table probably in 3 or 4 years since pre-COVID. So this was the first time that I was playing. I used to be okay at the game, but like everything else, if you're rusty, you're rusty. It's hard to get the feel of things. But as soon as I picked up a stick and had an opponent, like the first thing was Logan and Jordan. All right, you got Flake or you got the other guy? You got Flake or the other guy? You got Jordan, you got Jacob, or you got Flake? It's like, I'll take Flake to win. And then I lost. And then Jordan was like, all right. Logan's like, all right, I'll take Flake this time, and I won.
So it was
It was the
actually
biggest hustle of my
it was
life,
actually
yeah.
inverted because what happened is I walked around the corner from the bar, and Jordan's like, "Don't look at anything, just Jacob or Flake." And I just went, "I don't know, Jacob," because I didn't know if we were boxing. I didn't know if we were, throwing Jordan for distance. I had no idea what the competition was. And so I just snapped off Jacob, and he's like, "Okay, then I got Flake." And I look, and then I'm like, "What are we playing?" I'm like, "Oh, it's 9-ball. All right, well, we're not too far into this game." And then Jacob won. And then Jordan was just apoplectic as he had to throw a $10 bill wadded up at me that got lodged behind the church pew benches. I pick it up, and then Jordan's like, "Fine, you get Flake this time." I'm like, "Okay." I'm not even thinking about it. And then Flake goes and wins. I'm like, "You can just PayPal me that $10
Such a
whenever."
scam. I unsubscribed from this YouTube channel and everything. Like,
Can you just first of all, the shot that I took to win that game was
it was
not
incredible.
That was beautiful.
It was like 9-ball off of like the short rail, angled back into the opposite corner.
Apple corner. Yep.
Nothing but net, right down in there. And then I nearly took down the arcade machine celebrating, telling people to suck it.
It was a full flake out. It was a full flake out.
Full flake out.
And I don't know, Dagan, what is the stupidest thing you've bet on? I gotta know.
I mean, I don't bet on very much that I don't feel like I have an edge on. That's just who I am, you know? But I think the most recent thing I can think of is, will LSS hit Starvo before the Pro Tour? Like whether he hits Living Legend or not. And I bet one of the locals $100 that they would like hit him, errata, ban something before the Pro Tour just to shake things up. And then I didn't. So I lost $100.
You idiot.
Jordan, God, this has to be cool. Jordan's has got to be good. I'm trying to think of what my absolute dumbest is, but most of my minor punishments.
I read this and instantly one thing came to mind. So the first time I went to Vegas was for like they were doing like 4 Grand Prix for Magic in Vegas, and we didn't stay on strip because we wanted like a testing house. And our house had like a pool in it, and there was a guy who like purportedly could not swim. Okay, and we were doing like hold your breath underwater. The winner gets $10 from each participant, whatever. This guy, seriously, I'm not joking. You lost $400 in the first like 2 hours of us playing these games. Okay. Then he goes, "Hey, I bet you that I could," because he was like getting his feet wet. He was like kind of learning a little bit. He's like, "I bet you I could beat you in a swim race." And I was like, "How much do you want to bet?" He was like, $500. Like, let me make my money back. And I was like, "Absolutely. I will absolutely take your $500 from you." This guy was a swimmer in high school and was baiting us from the minute we started.
What a savage.
Oh my God. He goes, instantly when you said hold our breath underwater for $20, he goes, "I know I was taking you."
So
That's so good.
He absolutely just sharked you the entire way.
Absolutely.
Hustled the hell out of you, big time.
He took side bets from other. He ended up making more money because he took side bets from other people because people were like putting action on me. Like, Jordan knows how to swim. That's got to be a prerequisite for winning a swimming contest. Like, so I'm down instantly 500 to this guy, and oh my God, it's brutal. That's the dumbest thing I've ever bet on. Is how long can you hold your breath underwater, and can you beat a non-swimmer at a swimming race?
It feels like that episode of Fresh Prince when they go to the pool hall and Uncle Phil comes in and just absolutely cleans house.
Yeah.
Remember that? It's just like,
Yep.
Jeffrey, break out Lucille. And then
Take out
it's
Lucille.
and then you have the music playing and he's like the one where he's eating the sandwich and just one hands it.
Mhm.
Oh my God.
We still talk about that to this day because I go to dinner with those guys every once in a while, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to gamble on anything today?" I'm like, "Yeah, bite me."
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly. You should have freaking known when the guy who couldn't hold his breath is like, "Yeah, I'll beat you in a swim race."
well, he has some extra cash in life, and he was also like a degenerate, like we all are, and was trying to make his coin back. And I thought, you know what? Like, I'll take it off him. I'll relieve a guy of some money he doesn't want, and then
For myself, it was, I won't say the dumbest thing, but you know what? You get the itch or you get the feeling. We were in Vegas. It was like the first time, second time I'd ever been in Vegas. I was there with like some of my oldest friends of all time, and we were there for a bachelor party. And we're going to go and like have a good time. We did Top Golf, whatever. We're going to hit some blackjack tables just to, some low stakes, just have a good time. We're leaving the rooms, and there's like six elevators. So I said, everybody, $5. I said, everyone stand next to a door. Whoever door opens wins all the money. And we ended up starting to do that over and over. And we're like, we're on our way to gamble. We're going to be there in 30 seconds. We just could not help ourselves. We started playing elevator roulette all freaking weekend long. And then we got like, some of us got skeptical. We're like, no. It's been that stupid door because we're on this floor. We're not doing it. We're going to a new hotel. So we would go to like another casino, go to the doors, and we're playing here. Like there's actual gambling going on right over there, but we're and then like the worst part was we're there and the doors would open and none of us would get in. We're like, all right, new roll. Like people would get in. Like that's probably the most degenerate that we've ever been.
I've been trying to come up with the worst ones, and I keep just getting like worse and worse and worse. Like I've bet on camel races. I've bet on corgi races.
Okay, those are fun.
I've gambled on if I was able to drink half a quart of spoiled milk without throwing up. Easy money, by the way. Iron stomach. I've gambled on. So the one that comes to mind though, and this was just I don't even know why or how we dreamed this up, but there are these things called shot roulette wheels, which are literal mini roulette wheels with a ball, and then you have shot glasses on the outside. So the game was we poured the most horrendous liquors we could find into the shot glasses. You had to spin the wheel, and there's a stack of cash sitting on the table. You spin the wheel, it hits the shot, you take the shot. If you make a face or have any other reaction to taking the shot, you're out, your money stays on the table. The blank where the shot glass used to be now becomes the money goes in the hole. Okay? And then you spin again. If the ball lands in the money, you take the money.
Okay.
If it lands on a shot, your turn. Time to get wrecked. And we found some of the most god-awful things. And so it was me down to, there was three $100 bills inside the holes left, and one shot of the worst thing you can think of, which is this stuff called Cinerator. It is a a higher alcohol content Fireball knockoff.
No!
That tastes so god-awful that I don't even think I could smell it without losing it. Like,
oh yeah, it's like $13 for 750 milliliters.
Right,
this is like dirt
trash.
cheap. Yeah,
and so we're all just like we're hitting blanks and we're celebrating hitting blank spots because we're not having to take the Cinerator shot. I hit the Cinerator shot, and so last shot if they win gets to take whatever's left on the board. And so I had to gear myself up to take that shot. I won it, and I had to hold water for a couple minutes before they would declare me the winner. And then I went and just all over the pavement, just everything in my stomach gone because that Cinerator shot was it. But I think I was plus 350 or so. Dude, on the event. That's
worth your stomach lining and your esophagus every freaking time.
And my liver. Yeah.
Screw that stuff. That regenerates. It's all good.
Yeah, they're very fast too.
All right. Last one, friends, is of the three of you, which one would best earn the nickname Coach?
Actually a tough one.
It doesn't have to be the best player. It's just got to be the coach.
I was going to say, my first thought was going to be me out of the three of us, only because I'm good at being critical of current situations and looking and analyzing them, but I'm not the best at executing anything.
Yeah, I think that we all have a bit of a coach in us. From what Jordan said, that's 100% accurate. I'm a gatherer. I tend to bring the thing together for it to happen. That's just one of the things I'm good at. And Dagan is obviously good at the actual coaching of saying, okay, this is a good spot to be in. We can talk through this here. So I think almost all of us have kind of a bit of a coach aspect. I guess I'm more of a GM aspect, honestly, than coach. So I think I would probably put it on. I think Jordan's more of a coach. Dagan's more of a coordinator. So I think that I would say Jordan would be the one we would call coach.
How do you feel about that, Dagan? I mean, you're unanimously chosen as the best player amidst everybody. I mean, the captain of the team, the star player of any hockey team or whatever, has to call somebody coach. Who's coach?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds reasonable. I'm kind of split because I feel like I was doing a decent job of being a coach in game, but yeah, outside of game, it would probably be him.
Yeah, Jordan? No, you said Jordan, right?
Oh, Jordan, yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. Cool. All right, well, that wraps up another awesome episode of Instant Speed Podcast. I'm very elated. Thank you guys so much for being on board. Let's go around the horn one more time. For those who might not know where to get more of your content, why don't you just hit us up? So, Dagan, where is there more Dagan that people can sort of absorb?
You can find me on Twitter at Kadachi1, or I just started a recent YouTube channel where I've started uploading draft POVs, so I'll probably be doing that more regularly, and you can find that at Dagan of the Corn.
Wonderful.
Of the corn.
of the corn. Gotcha.
Yeah.
How about yourself, Jordan?
Yeah, I'm one of the three power trio on Flush and Pod. We, like Logan mentioned, we release new episodes every Tuesday. Flush Pod on Twitter. My personal Twitter is @I'mJorman, which is IMJORMAN. I tweet a lot of politics, a lot of sports, a lot of flesh and blood. So if that's your jam, I am always down to chat. So.
And yourself, Logan.
Still at Logan Peterson on Twitter. I'm tweeting mostly Flesh and Blood, honestly, responding to people kind of nonstop at this point. As Jordan liked to put it, it's the best part. One of the best parts of these events is that the 2-day love fest on Twitter afterwards. Everybody just telling them telling everybody how much gas they are, and they are. Like, let's be fair here, they are. And then on Discord, we're obviously the Flesh and Pod Discord is on our show notes. So if you listen to our show or just want to go to the page, and if you're on the page, you might as well listen or watch. But the Discord's in the show notes. Please join us. We have a good time talking about existential dread, booze, food, how bread is the greatest substance that man has ever created, things like that. And then also the game that we all love and enjoy. And then also 1/3 of the power trio of Flesh and Pod. And you can find us on every, and I do think it is every podcast platform out there, including Podbean, which is important. I didn't know that was an actual thing until Vegas, and then I found out. And we are on there, so it was Instant Speed for that matter. So we looked up everybody to make sure that they're all on Podbean. So that's where we can find us, I guess. Also on our YouTube channel, which is just Flesh and Pod on YouTube.
I don't handle any of this stuff. I just record, and then I'm like, here, do your thing.
The definition of talent.
Or lack thereof, frankly. That said, friends, thank you again so much for just being on the show. You guys are wonderful, so
Absolutely.
I do appreciate it.
Anytime.
All right, friends, that does it for another episode of Instant Speed Podcast. Again, big thank you to our sponsors, BCW and FabDB, and to all our patrons. Again, if you want to support the podcast for as little as $1 a month, go to patreon.com/InstantSpeedPod. Thank you so much. Don't forget, you're not losing if you're learning. We'll see you next week on the Instant Speed Podcast.